Welcome back. I'm Christopher Valentine, and with me today is a very special guest, clairvoyant, psychic medium, and medical intuitive, one of the best in the world, in my opinion, the very best in the world,
Wow.
Dr. Christian von Lahr.
Thank you. It's fun to be back. And you know, I've been doing that, Chris, for so long, like 43 years. And one of the interesting abilities that you mentioned, this medical intuition, has to do with the way I developed clairvoyance, as opposed to just thinking that you can only see life on the other side. I actually started looking inside things like rocks and feathers and wood, and I realized that clairvoyance allows us to see even in the body. And one of the first things I started doing was seeing injuries and wounds and things in people. But clairvoyance is also what led me to see the nature spirits.
That is what we're talking about today. Seeing the nature spirits. We're talking about seeing and sensing gnomes. Hey, looky here. The second book in a series of books channeled directly from the nature spirits themselves.
And what's important, though, is although we started out with using a professional clairvoyant, in this case, to start seeing and working and connecting with nature spirits, we found that you don't have to be psychic.
No.
It turns out that anybody can see nature spirits. Can I take a moment and show them why?
Well, I'd like to do that too.
Oh, okay.
Well, just a brief start. Nature spirits can be seen by anyone. You don't have to be a clairvoyant like Christian was saying, because nature spirits are right here on the physical plane with us. They're just in the upper three subplanes known as etheric matter.
But the reason you can see them, anybody can see them, is because you've always been able to. It has no psychic requirement. Here's why. They're made of etheric matter, but that etheric matter is here on this plane, as you mentioned. But we have the eyes already developed to see nature spirits. Because they're here in the physical, we can see them in the physical. Now, our eyes have two kind of constructs in them. The outer part of our eye has these elongated structures called rods. That's what you need to see nature spirits. And by the way, it's what you use when you're acting clairvoyantly, when you're seeing things on the other side, because it differentiates levels of energy, which is why when you first start seeing nature spirits, Chris, they will actually look like the outline. And you'll see the little conical hats, little arms and feet, and you'll see the outline.
The energy.
Which is exactly how you see people from the other side, or life in the other realms. But in addition to doing this way, you can see colors, which give you an idea. Is it a leprechaun or a gnome? Because the gnomes, for example, tend to resonate and glow that green and red, their colors, because they use two spectrums of colors that make them up. Humans have all the colors in us, so we don't distinguish anything. But leprechauns, for example, the colors gold and green together,
Yeah, deep green. Yeah,
are the frequencies they resonate with. And these are going to be very strong clues on how we're going to show you how to see them. Elves like green and white. Now, fairies are very unusual. They use four pastel colors. Pastel green with white in it, pink with white in it, blue with white in it, and yellow with white in it. And so you're saying, why do these colors mean something? In anything spiritual or metaphysical, colors and sounds are consistent. Just to us, they seem differently. But with a fairy, for example, when you put those colors together, it's like striking four very specific notes in music. Well, that's sort of a genius. You can't just put any notes together. Certain ones make that chord. And so nature spirits resonate with certain frequencies. The first rule to seeing them is to learn the colors.
And that reminds me, Smurf, our blue fairy, who is on the cover of the fourth book, his likeness, talks about thinking about sky blue. And he said, think about sky blue, the lightest, palest blue that you can think of. And that's the color, is that the color that he resonates to, or all fairies resonate to, or blue fairies resonate to?
Well, I think he was trying to point out that that's the shade of blue that's one of those notes, okay? And when you get that shade down, that's sort of a pastel or powdery blue, only bright, because everything in the other realm is brighter than here. That's why the covers are so bright, by the way. So that same tone of color in the pink, the yellow, and the green.
But he does resonate to that powder blue color.
He does, but he also has a little bit of a deeper blue and lavender mixed in. Okay, and that powder blue, by the way, and that it's more like an aquamarine, because we see the colors brighter when we start seeing color with nature spirits. That color represents expression, by the way.
Well, he is definitely a show-off. When we teach people how to see nature spirits live in our workshops, Smurf has come in very, very clear. You can see like a bluish snowman or outline, bright powder blue coming in.
I remember that show we were teaching at a very, very large exposition. And it may have even been in Ohio, because Ohio, for some reason in the entire U.S., has, the population can see nature spirits so much easier. And so we have nearly 100% success rate when we're teaching. And we could be teaching hundreds of people. But we do have a couple show-offs, and one of them was Smurf, this blue fairy. And so we're actually having him get up on our shoulders for people to see.
And you see a bluish?
And he actually made such a glowing, bright blue.
Yeah.
And the leprechaun, one of our leprechauns,
Sprite.
yeah, Sprite was a show-off in San Francisco. Very, very big turnout, by the way. And to make sure that everybody saw it, because everyone's trying to take pictures, he not only showed himself as this green and gold leprechaun, he made his own aura.
Oh, like an egg.
Like a yellow egg behind him, so that it was extremely distinct.
Like, oh, yeah, that was amazing.
Okay, so we mentioned that the rods in our eyes see the outlines. That's important, because the regular part of our eye is a triangular structure called a cone. And these cones, these triangular structures in our eyes, make us focus three-dimensionally. And so humans are very used to looking at things three-dimensionally.
That's all we're doing. Focus, 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 right?
Which is precisely what we don't want to do when you're seeing nature spirits.
You want to diffuse your eyes when you're seeing nature spirits. When you're practicing, it's okay if you relax your eyes. It's okay if they even go a little cross-eyed. That's going to help you.
So what Christopher and I have done is we've developed some techniques to force you to see etherically.
Yes.
And one of them is looking at a dot on a piece of paper, floating your fingers, just take the two next to your thumb, about one finger above the paper, spread them apart about 1 finger length wide. And so acting like a microscope, if you look at the dot on a piece of white paper, and it has to be laying right there on the paper, you will, and you don't look at your fingers, you look at that dot, you will start seeing your fingers glow.
That is etheric energy. That is the energy that nature spirits are made of. It's also known as our health aura. And that is how you start practicing. See, one of the ways you can
But
start.
now you just gave away an interesting clue. We have etheric energy also, and nature spirits put it there, and they keep putting it there, and they keep us healthy. We have nature spirits around us because they have to keep all those minerals and things coming to us that we need from the moment we're born. And then we come in like a gold mesh, like screen door, only bright gold. And so they see that as a blueprint, and they know, we need a little iron over here, some copper, bring down some copper. And they actually start constructing us, which is what nature spirits do for all things, and they have to keep maintaining that. So you have a whole band of energy everywhere on us, but we see it easily on the fingers and arms.
So that golden mesh that you're talking about, Christian, is kind of like the divine blueprint of who we are, and the gnomes are adding the minerals to us.
Yes.
And not only do they add the minerals to us, but gnomes are also earth nature spirits, are helping the plants in the plant kingdom by bringing the minerals up to the roots of the plants. That's one of their primary functions.
You know, there's a plant that actually comes to mind that's very easy to see, the etheric energy. There are two plants that make pure etheric energy. Actually, it's prana that they make, which is taking some astral energy, mixing it with ours, and that actually gives us this concept of life. We need a special energy around us. But pine trees, if you go up in the mountains, when the sun's going down a little bit, look at the pine tree at the outer edge, and you'll see it glowing very brightly with natural prana, as if you could get a vitamin D injection. That's the health content for you. And the other one is eucalyptus.
Yes, and you know, that's where we get our energy from. Prana comes in through our solar plexus chakra and fills up all of our aura and gets all the other chakras going too, right?
At least we hope so. Now,
well, I've had treatments by you, and it works fantastic. If you're low on energy, and a lot of people do this at the shows, Christian will clean and balance your aura and your chakras, and then they tell us later, I couldn't sleep that night, I had so much energy.
Well, that's why we have chakras, to bring in this various energy. Okay, so back to the subject, the nature spirits, we want to learn how to see them. So we mentioned you can't use the middle of the eye because it only makes us focus, doesn't help us. You have to use the outer part. So we showed you how to spread your eyes by looking at a dot on a piece of paper and start looking, use the outer part of your eye. You can also look into things that are very deep already, like deep bushes. Your mind already knows that there's depth in that bush. So it isn't going to force you to make out every little leaf. So this is a wonderful trick they showed us. So look for a deep bush with red flowers on it, and then you get that red and green together, and if you're ignoring the depth, you're also automatically going to start seeing the outline of gnomes since they resonate with the green and red color.
Christian, that is how I got started when I was very, very young. My grandmother and I would go in the garden and she would say, would you like to practice seeing gnomes? Now, what 4-year-old or 5-year-old child or however old I was at the time would say no to that? Of course I want to practice seeing gnomes. And we didn't have, or she didn't have red flowers or any type of flowers in the bushes that we were looking at. They were a big green hedge, but we could make out outlines of nature spirits.
Because the bushes trick your eyes. Your eyes, by the way, don't see everything. I think 70% of what you see actually is memory in your brain. So your mind takes a shortcut and presumes that there's depth. So when you're looking at a bush or tree, you're not making out all those leaves and details. Now, there are other techniques, we can enhance our ability by bringing in artificial light, right? So we mentioned that the green and the red works with gnomes because they resonate with that frequency. So if you took the modern type of Christmas lights and you use that green light and the red light in an area of the garden, make a particular area just for the gnomes, and you hung up those lights, you're going to attract gnomes there, okay? So guess what? In a day or 2 or 3, if you start looking at those plants, you're going to see not a gnome, many gnomes, right? Because it's a kingdom.
Right, and when we come back, we're going to continue on that topic and talk about how you can see the fairies, leprechauns, and elves as well. Stay with us.